просто хотел отметить важность перехода от темы, доминирующей в 2000-е на постсоветском пространстве, именно сохранения исторического наследия в низовых городских практиках, к теме, я его выключил, к теме, которая становится все более актуальной сегодня, а именно реконструкция социальной среды и вопросов, которые так или иначе связаны с тем, как тот или иной исторический памятник действует в пространстве жизни, каким образом он организует взаимодействие, каким образом жители города создают некоторую реальность вокруг него. И полагаю, что это хороший пролог к тому, чтобы перейти от пространств памяти об исторических свершениях к пространствам памяти о насилии. Насилие тоже, насилие вытесненное, неприглядное, непотребное, это тоже предмет городской реальности, с которым нам все время приходится иметь дело, и который нередко служит не столько и не только источником беспокойства, сколько материи, которая постоянно переупорядочивается с целью придать ей большую гладкость и незаметность. И в этом смысле история послевоенного Бейрута является совершенно беспрецедентной, поскольку процессы реновации, процессы перекраивания городской ткани и попытки работы с этими пространствами совсем недавнего насилия демонстрируют нам еще один пример того, каким образом реализуется политика памяти в неолиберальном управлении городом. И с тем, чтобы мы больше и лучше узнали эту историю, я хочу пригласить Халила Жорежа представить свой материал.
Okay, first I would like to thank everybody for being here. I'm going to try to articulate some of the questions related to the ghost and the ways that ghost was one of our main concerns, especially at the end of the civil wars. Joanna and me. Okay, more closer. Okay. Joanna and me, we didn't study art or cinema. We came to start our practices because we had to face certain realities and certain situations that were occurring in Lebanon after the civil wars. So we start to take pictures, especially in the city center of Beirut in 1988. Just before the end of the wars, and because it was a region that we didn't knew, it was a kind of no man's land during the and to take pictures was a pretext to go there and discover places that we didn't know, where we were feeling as tourists, and violence can sometimes make you feel stranger to your own realities. It's in that same city center, the Midtown, that will crystallize the reconstruction project after the official end of the Lebanese civil wars in 1990, when a private company led by the Prime Minister Rafi Hariri at that time will privatize the Midtown and start a reconstruction project. Just to have an idea, they were having 1,482 buildings on this land, and for the reconstruction, they will keep only 482, meaning that the rest will be destroyed. So it was something very bizarre when instead of having the sound of the wars, you will have the sound of the reconstruction, and it will be exactly the same sound, building being blown. This economical project and especially the real estate project, was considered at that time as the best bound to reconciliate a divided society, to reconciliate people who were able to kill the others, to torture the others, and much more. So we felt we were living in a very bizarre moment at that time between two temporality, two states that we were documenting. We were documenting in the same time the former results of the wars, the destructions, and at the same time the new changes by the destruction and the evolution of the so-called reconstruction. It was a very bizarre moment where everything was going very fast. Every day buildings were disappearing, things were changing, and all our relation to photography was also changing by this change of our realities. Meaning it was our way to understand our relation to the images, to everything that was happening. Part of our work is to report what we can no longer see. It's not just to constitute a documentation of the past, but also to integrate our relation to the present. I do not believe that there's a problem of amnesia in Lebanon. Actually, I consider exactly the opposite. There was an amnesty, so that allowed all the warlords to be part of the government till today. So this is an ethical problem. It's not a problem about politics for me. It's more a problem about ethics, but this is not the point here. My problem is here that I consider that Lebanon was a war that generated a lot of images, a lot of memories, but the main problem was a problem of the writing of the history. So for us, there was a real opposition between actually the memory and the presence of so many images and memories and the impossibility of writing our contemporary history. And actually, the problem with history, I would say that the amnesia was a political project that did not work in Lebanon. There was too much memory in Lebanon, and moreover, one of the main problems is that we were confronted with ghosts. So the ghost was the spectre of the past that is still very present, was what scrambled completely this project of the reconstruction. And to go further on this project, it's maybe little by little it appears that the main question for us was a question of rhythm. How the rhythm of mourning, for example, the question of the rhythm is at the center of a question that Roland Barthes will say it's how to live together is to share a same rhythm. At that period, so we were not, what was important is that we were not representing violence being on buildings, for example, on these buildings where you don't know, you don't understand what it is anymore. It was more for us not a representation of the violence, but to see how the violence was affecting the image or the narration or the representation by itself. So you see, it's not a representation of violence, but the violence that was affecting, changing the representation and, for example, the possibility of writing the history. One of the first projects that we did was this installation called the Circle of Confusion, which is basically an image, a composite image, an aerial view of Beirut at that time in '97, where it was cut in 3,000 fragments, numbered and glued on a mirror. The visitors are invited to come and take a fragment of it. And behind every fragment, it was written, Beirut does not exist. Why are we referring to this? It's just to, from the beginning, we had a problem with definitions, with the ways that we will have to escape definition. And this quote about Beirut does not exist is referring to a seminar by Jacques Lacan where he's saying that woman does not exist, meaning that of course there is woman, but it's not, there's no identity. It's a place of fiction. It's a place of reconstruction of knowledge and fictions. So for us, what was linked here, it's also a way to involve the spectator, to be part of it. And in the same time, it was re-questioning at that time in 97, the Solidaire project. Solidaire project was this company that privatized all them. And it was the first company that gave shares instead of the buildings and was, how we say, listed in the Beirut stock, meaning people who used to have a contract, a loan, or something, ended with having shares, and they were not. Suddenly, it was another dimension, and they felt stranger to this dematerialization of these grounds. So we will talk about the extraterritoriality. At that same period, we started this project called Wonder Beirut because we saw many nostalgic pictures appearing again in the bookshops and the libraries in Lebanon. Just to have these nostalgic images were images of the 60s and the 70s of places that does not exist anymore. Places that were destroyed all by the war or by the reconstruction. Just to be aware of what was happening at that moment is that we had what we call the CDR, which is the Council for Development and Reconstruction in Lebanon, that made a very popular TV ad at that time, showing a clock. And this clock was you had dates on your impression, and suddenly in 75, which is the official date of the war, it stopped suddenly. And in 90, which is also another official date, but at that moment all Lebanon was still occupied, you will have a hand with white gloves that will come and take out a sand, a grain of sand, and the mechanism will start again. Very bizarrely, basically, the war was just a grain of sand, an accident that stopped a mechanism, a routine, I would even say, and once removed, everything starts again. So, the project was to put the war between brackets. The project reappeared. So we decided to destroy these images according to the event that they exist at that time, because we were having this problem with the history. What we did here is that we went back to the newspaper and the documents, found what happened every day, and start to reflect on those images, those ideal images, what really happened. So we destroyed the images according to the events that were happening. This is what we call a historical process, where we invent a character, Abdallah Farah, who was a photographer who did the images before, and who destroyed his own images according to the events that were really happening. So this is what we call the Battle of the Hotel that occurred in 1975 and 76. We assigned after to Abdallah Farah another of our practice to Joanne and me. We noticed that we were taking pictures without developing them. We took a lot of pictures and little by little making some group of this whole, putting some notes. So we decided to continue this practice and to attribute it actually to Abdallah Farah, we create this character like in a fiction film, and we imagine that he starts this practice because of a lack of product during the Lebanese civil war, like a blockhouse makes that you are in a lack of material. But actually for us, it was really a kind of reflection about the withdrawal of certain representation after a disaster. It was also a way to withdraw some images, to be out of a certain flux, to try to rethink about the power of images, generating some images. For us, we were generating what we call contact sheets and presenting some narration. For us, it was a way to rethink about it as a diary of 10 years of Abdallah Farah, writing his sentimental life, the evolution of the neighborhood where he lives in Beirut, the city of Beirut, the tournament of the story of contemporary Lebanon architecture, for example, but also the social and political transformations that were occurring at that time, and also the relation to photography, because it was nearly the end of the argentic photo, and his relation to the digital world, where actually now he's selling cell phone. But one of the questions related to those latent images is at what moment shall Abdallah Farah start to develop his images? In which condition these images will reappear again? When we are talking about latent images, we are talking about something that we feel very strongly in Lebanon. It's this condition of latency. What is latency? It's a state which exists in a non-apparent manner, meaning it's something that is here even if you don't see it. It is something in which at any moment can manifest itself, like something sleeping that can maybe wake up. The latent image is the image of the invisible impressed surface, but is not yet, but which nevertheless exists. The city itself conveys the feelings that we have in Beirut. One of the feelings that we will talk after is, for example, the missing people in Lebanon. In Lebanon, we have 17,000 missing persons, among them my uncle. A missing person is not a dead person. It's a person that disappeared. And Lebanon, you have to imagine that it's a very small country, very urbanized. So there's no, even the countryside is urbanized. So there's no left corner where you may lose a body. No, everything has been digged. And nevertheless, there is 17,000 missing bodies. For a very small country, 150 kilometers by 50, it's a lot. And these bodies are re-hunting us. Latency, they are latent, meaning they are here even if they are invisible. Latency can furthermore be a political attitude against dominant representation, both of the existing authoritarian power in place and those of the Orientalist image, which consists in emphasizing this notion that we are here even if you don't see us, and telling our personal story, our secret history. It's a history that haunts us. So what are the conditions that will that will make this latency visible again? It's at the heart of my. This is the envelope that my uncle, where I found the film of my uncle that we are presenting in the exhibition. This film was completely. Everybody was saying that. It will be lost. We won't find anything. But we decided to photograph it. Actually, you have to understand that usually when you are, a family is waiting for a kidnapped person, they have, after a while, everything is freezed, meaning they cannot, the account in the bank is freezed, the loan, the rent, everything is freezed. You cannot touch anything. So after a moment, if you want to go out from this situation, you have to declare your missing person as dead. And this is a process that will take 4 years after you make the first sign of missing public. Of course, it's a very difficult things to do for the family because it's an act that are in the middle of a lot of questions. It was the center point of this film, A Perfect Day, that tells the story of a young man and his mother who on that day, it's happening in one day, where they decided to declare dead their husband and father who disappeared during the Lebanese Civil War 18 years ago. Where do the missing go? What can do with the disappearance? The film raised the issue of missing person and of course, A Perfect Day is inspired by my family. And the question of the rhythm. As you can see, there is 3 characters. Malik, her girlfriend, that you can imagine is here, and his mother. On that particular day, actually, the day they decided to declare their father and husband dead, they are living actually 2 different temporality. For Claudia, the mother, his husband is dying today. For his son, he died 15 years ago. How a same event can be lived with such a time gap? How a same event can be lived with these different temporalities? And all the film is trying to interrogate this. This is a law about people relating to missing person in Lebanon, and this is a kind of announce we put in the newspaper to just say that there is a missing person. Wow! What happened with the people? We were facing something completely different about the missings. It's about the ghost. As you can see in the film, there's a scene where Claudia is confronted to the ghost. And in the ghost, how can we see a ghost? It's not how we can see a ghost. It's why we are not seeing these ghosts. These ghosts are present. We have to take it literally. But as Claudia will say in the film and referring to Jalal Toufi, who is quoting Hamlet, we were talking to this, he developed the notion of ghost, spectre, and zombie. And he will write that in certain society like post-war Lebanon, Cambodia, Bosnia, the survivors are faced with the following choice. Either they tolerate the ghost, resist the temptation of repressing or banishing him, or else they gradually turn into zombie in the Haitian sense of the word. Meaning that he drew a parallel here with Hamlet, who sees and hears the ghost of his father while his mother doesn't see it, doesn't sense it, as though all her senses were atrophied, as though she has become a zombie. She cannot see him, she cannot sense him, she cannot hear him. If you don't see the ghost, that means that you are a zombie. So we had to face another situation just after, is that these are photos of martyrs that are spread all over the city. People who are dead, that look at us, that stared at us. And we try to photograph them at different stages. What appear is that sometimes they disappear and you can see them as an apparition or as a disappearing. And we start to wonder about the status of these martyrs. These martyrs are always, there's a sentence behind it, Hay fina, meaning it's still alive in us. But by calling them all the time, we ended by forbidding them to rest. In another way, by calling the ghost to be still present, sometimes they are tired. And maybe in those frames, we can think that the ghost decided to retreat themselves so they can rest in peace. I don't have time, but I would like just to show this. This is an extract of a video called palimpsest. Palimpsest is when you write and write and write on the same text. These are runes from the 2006 war, a war between Lebanon and Israel, where suddenly these are not runes anymore. The runes were in the south suburb of Beirut. They moved all the runes to put them on the sea to take out the iron of it. So what you are seeing here is an economical project where you take out the iron and you build a new layer, a new land, a new leveling on the sea, made of all the story. It's not runes anymore, but nevertheless, you can still feel the ghosts. Thanks.
Большое спасибо, Халил. Глядя на последовательность, которую ты предложил, рассказывая о ваших проектах, я вспомнил определение Франка Берарди из короткого, но, как мне кажется, значительного текста «Why artists?», «Почему художники?», который говорит, что сегодня одна из задач работы художника заключается в том, чтобы противостоять идентичностям, создаваемым в эпоху катастрофы и прекарности, тем, которые закрепляют нас в иллюзии постоянства и устойчивости, будь то возвышенная красота, нация, принадлежность к какой-либо определенной социальной группе. Реальность уже не может гарантировать нам этого постоянства, и художник, который вскрывает непостоянство этих идентичностей, совершает свою основную работу. Меня очень заинтересовал проект Wonder Beirut, который, мне кажется, как раз отражает в модельном виде эту критическую работу, попытку отказать городу в том, чтобы практиковать запрос на вот эту сверхнормальность и сверхнормативность. Так, как будто ничего не произошло, как будто война не состоялась, как будто нету истории, стоящей за этими красотами, создаваемыми силами частной строительной компании. Мне хотелось узнать, в какой мере ты сам и вы с Жоаной рассматриваете эти проекты как конфронтационные. То есть не просто привлечь внимание к вытесненному, но подорвать ложные идентичности, вот этой сверхнормальности, которая опирается на ностальгию. Для России это крайне важные и актуальные сюжеты.
Okay, I will say that, of course, there is confrontations. All the work is about confrontation, meaning that we are fighting against certain form of identity, fake identity or easy identity. This is why I mentioned this Circle of Confusion project, where I say Beirut does not exist, where it's always trying to escape the definitions, to be able to still be in a vivid place, to still be in a place of where you have encounters. What is very interesting in Lebanon is that we are in a very complex and even obscene place where there is no stable relation. Even the wars, this is why we always put an S in wars, because it was never between the same people. We were changing all the time. The people who were fighting, 2 months after, no, they are now together and we are fighting. It was not a religious war. It was not, we don't know what we were fighting, but we were very seriously fighting. And a lot of people died, but we are still wondering why, meaning that as soon as you will give me a reason why you're doing, you are giving me much more information about yourself than about the place. And here is what is interesting, is that it's a kind of mirror for us. It's a place where we are doing. Now about the confrontation. Of course, little by little, there's powers that are appearing, and part of our task is to oppose to this, to the institutionalization of these powers. But this is what we did in other places with work like, you see the rocket here, where we are referring to the Armenian project that happened in the 60s, where it was for peace, and today if you see a rocket in the Middle East, it would be a missile targeting Israel. So here we have to negotiate in the real to make it happen. When we made the film with Catherine Deneuve in the, just after the war of 2006, it's actually how you're going to negotiate in some places where you're not allowed anymore to make art because you have to be a militant or a fighter. But what if it's also our duty to come back in those difficult places, to be able to produce against meanings, another kind of meanings, another kind of encounter. So I believe really that it's not we are in confrontation, we are looking for reason to believe in this word. This is a quote of Deleuze, when we say that we have no choice.